Welcome back to the channel, basketball fans, and brace yourselves because we have an absolutely massive, landscape-shifting breaking story today that is sending shockwaves through the entire National Basketball Association. If you thought the offseason was going to be quiet after the New York Knicks just hoisted the Larry O'Brien Trophy in June, you are dead wrong. We are talking about the face of the league, the generational alien himself, Victor Wembanyama, and a monumental decision he just made that has some powerful people behind closed doors absolutely furious. Yes, you heard that right. People are not happy with what Victor Wembanyama just did. The San Antonio Spurs recently locked up their franchise centerpiece to a massive 5-year contract extension, but it is not the staggering numbers on the page that have the basketball world and executives in a frenzy. It is the numbers that are conspicuously missing. Vembanyama has deliberately chosen to leave tens of millions of dollars on the table, opting for a contract that takes up 25% of the salary cap rather than the 30% supermax he was easily qualified for. And while Spurs fans are dancing in the streets of San Antonio, the National Basketball Players Association is reportedly absolutely livid. They do not want the best player on the planet setting a dangerous precedent where prime superstars take below-market deals. But Vembanyama clearly does not care about union politics right now. He cares about one thing, and that is revenge. He cares about building a dynasty. And this single historic financial sacrifice has immediately created an intense, suffocating pressure on two very specific people in the NBA universe. First, the pressure falls squarely on the shoulders of his own dynamic young teammate, Stephon Castle. And second, it shifts the crosshairs directly onto the man who just beat him in the finals, the heavily scrutinized big man of the New York Knicks, Karl-Anthony Towns. Today, we are going deep. We're going to unpack exactly why the Players Association is fuming at Vembanyama, how this sets up a dramatic, do-or-die scenario for Stephon Castle's development, and why Karl-Anthony Towns should be losing sleep over what this means for his newly minted championship window. The 2026 NBA Finals might be over, but the war for the future of the league has just begun. Make sure you hit that subscribe button, like the video, and let us dive straight into the absolute madness of the situation. Let us set the stage here. Victor Wembanyama is 22 years old. He just led the San Antonio Spurs to a staggering 62-win season in a brutally competitive Western Conference. He took them all the way to the NBA Finals against the New York Knicks. He put up video game numbers all season, asserting himself as the most terrifying two-way force the game has seen since prime Shaquille O'Neal or Hakeem Olajuwon. Under the current collective bargaining agreement, a player of his caliber, with his accolades, is eligible for a designated rookie extension worth up to 30% of the team's salary cap. It is a financial mechanism designed to reward the absolute elite. It is the gold standard of NBA contracts. But instead of signing the dotted line for the absolute maximum, Vembanyama agreed to a 5-year, $252 million deal, settling for 25% of cap. Now, to the average person, $252 million is an unfathomable amount of wealth. But in the economics of the NBA, Vembanyama just gave the San Antonio Spurs a massive, franchise-altering discount. And this is exactly why the National Basketball Players Association is reportedly deeply unhappy. The union's entire purpose is to maximize player earnings and ensure that the athletes receive their fair share of the billions of dollars the league generates. When the undisputed best young player in the world willingly takes a pay cut in his prime, it sets a terrifying precedent for the union. Front offices across the league will now look at their own rising stars and say, well, Victor Wembanyama took less to help his team build a winner. Why can't you? It undermines the very structure of the max contract system. The union fights tooth and nail during lockout negotiations to secure these max thresholds, and they rely on the top-tier superstars to demand every single penny to keep the market value high for everyone else. We saw a similar grumbling when Jalen Brunson took a historic pay cut to give the Knicks financial flexibility, a move that ultimately helped them win the 2026 championship. But Brunson, as great as he is not Vembanyama. Vembanyama is the face of the sport globally. For him to do this before his 23rd birthday sends a shockwave through the financial ecosystem of the league. The union will undoubtedly try to have conversations with him, but the ink is dry. Vembanyama has made his choice. He is sacrificing personal wealth for roster flexibility. And that brings us to the most fascinating, high-stakes ripple effect of this entire situation. The immense, undeniable pressure this immediately places on Stephon Castle. Make no mistake, Victor Wembanyama did not leave money on the table as a charitable donation to the billionaire owners of the Spurs. He did it with a specific, calculated purpose. He did it so the front office has a salary cap space to offer lucrative, long-term extensions to Stephon Castle and rookie sensation Dylan Harper in the coming years. Vembanyama is looking at Castle and saying, "I just bought into you. I just sacrificed my own supermax so that we can keep you here, so that we can build this empire together." That is a heavy, heavy burden for a young guard to carry. Stephon Castle is no longer just a promising lottery pick trying to figure out the league. He is the investment. He is the reason the franchise player took a pay cut. Every time Castle steps onto the floor next season, the narrative will be tied to Wembanyama's wallet. If Castle struggles, if he goes through a shooting slump, if he hesitates in big moments, the critics will not just talk about his development. They will ask if Vembanyama wasted millions of dollars on a backcourt partner who could not elevate to a championship level. We saw the intense, complicated dynamic between Vembanyama and Castle play out on the biggest stage imaginable just weeks ago in the 2026 NBA Finals against the Knicks. Let us rewind to Game 2 at Madison Square Garden. The Spurs were down, their backs against the wall, but they mounted an incredible 14-point comeback in the fourth quarter. The score is tied 104-104. 12.7 seconds left on the clock. Vembanyama grabs his 9th rebound of the night after contesting a Jalen Brunson miss. The building is holding its breath. The Spurs have a chance to steal Game 2 on the road. Vembanyama looks up the floor, sees what he thinks is a fast break opportunity, and throws a desperate outlet pass. But Stephon Castle was not expecting it. He was not looking. The ball sails out of bounds. Turnover. The Knicks capitalize, the Spurs lose, and they go down 0-2 in the series. In the post-game press conference, Vembanyama took the blame like a true leader. He admitted urgency got the better of him. He said, "I threw that one away." But you can imagine the weight that moment put on Stephon Castle. He was part of the miscommunication that cost him a crucial finals game. But then, look at how they responded in Game 3. With the pressure mounting and the threat of an insurmountable 0-3 deficit looming, Vembanyama and Castle delivered an absolute masterclass. Vembanyama erupted for 32 points, dominating the paint, while Castle was a revelation, pouring in 23 points, grabbing 5 rebounds, and dishing out 5 assists. In doing so, they became the youngest duo by average age in the history of the NBA to each score 20 or more points in a finals game. They broke a record previously held by Shaquille O'Neal and Kobe Bryant. Think about the magnitude of that. Vembanyama knows what Castle is capable of. He sees the flashes of a superstar running mate. He sees the resilience. That Game 3 performance is exactly why Vembanyama is willing to take a pay cut for him. He believes that Stephon Castle is his Dwayne Wade, his Scottie Pippen, his Kobe Bryant. But potential is one thing. Consistent championship execution is another. The pressure on Castle heading into the 2026 to 2027 season is going to be astronomical. He is no longer playing with house money. He is playing with Wembanyama's actual money. He has to take that leap. He has to become an all-star caliber guard because the window for excuses has officially closed in San Antonio. And speaking of championship execution, this brings us to the other massive consequence of Wembanyama's contract decision. The immediate, terrifying pressure places on the defending champions, and specifically Karl-Anthony Towns. Let's be clear, Karl-Anthony Towns just had the defining moment of his career. For years, he was criticized in Minnesota. They said he was soft. They said he couldn't win the big one. They said he cared more about stats than winning basketball. But after the blockbuster trade that sent him to New York, Towns silenced every single critic. He anchored the middle for the Knicks. He averaged nearly 12 rebounds a game this season. He was a dominant force, securing massive defensive rebounds and stretching the floor with his elite three-point shooting. And in the NBA Finals, he drew the hardest defensive assignment in the history of the sport, guarding Victor Wembanyama. Towns battled. He fought in the post. He scored 21 points in that pivotal game, too. Even when the Knicks lost Game 3 and head coach Mike Brown was ranting about the officiating, Towns showed incredible maturity. He refused to blame the referees, pointing instead to the team's turnovers and lack of execution. That is championship leadership. And ultimately, in Game 5, the Knicks closed it out, winning a grinding 94-90 defensive battle to secure the title. Towns reached the mountaintop. He got his ring. He cemented his legacy in the mecca of basketball. But in the NBA, you never get to rest on your laurels. The ink on Wembanyama's team-friendly extension is a massive warning siren for New York. If Wembanyama had demanded the Supermax, the Spurs would have been financially hamstrung. They would have struggled to retain depth, to sign elite role players, or to keep Castle and Harper together long-term. The Knicks could have looked at the landscape and felt comfortable that their roster depth would always give them an edge over a top-heavy San Antonio team. But Wembanyama just gave the Spurs the ultimate weapon, cap flexibility paired with a generational superstar. This means the San Antonio Spurs are not going to fade away. They are going to reload. They are going to surround Vembanyama with absolute snipers and elite perimeter defenders. The monster is not just awake. It is heavily armed and out for blood. For Karl-Anthony Towns, this is a nightmare scenario. He just expended every ounce of physical and mental energy he had to survive a 5-game war with a 22-year-old Vembanyama. Next year, Vembanyama is going to be stronger. He is going to be smarter. He is going to be more efficient. And thanks to this contract, his supporting cast is going to be significantly better. The pressure on Towns to replicate his defensive performance, to anchor the Knicks against an even more potent Spurs team, is staggering. The Knicks are no longer the hunters. They are the hunted. And the apex predator of the league just signaled that he is willing to do whatever it takes, including sacrificing his own paycheck, to tear them down from the throne. Towns finally proved he can be a champion, but now he has to prove something even harder, that he can defend a championship against a dynasty in the making. Every time Towns hits the gym this summer, he has to know that Vembanyama is doing the same, fueled by the bitter taste of that Game 5 loss. The margin for error for New York just shrank to 0. As we look ahead to the upcoming season, the narrative is already written, and it is absolutely captivating. Victor Wembanyama has drawn a line in the sand. By taking this non-max extension, he has told the Spurs front office, "I have done my part. Now go build the empire." He has told the Players Association, "My legacy is measured in rings, not bank statements." He has looked Stephon Castle in the eye and issued a silent challenge to rise to greatness. And he has sent a chilling message to Karl-Anthony Towns, Jalen Brunson, and the rest of the New York Knicks. Enjoy the parade, because your reign is going to be under constant, relentless siege. The beauty of the NBA is how quickly the landscape can shift based on a single signature on a piece of paper. We are witnessing the evolution of a player who understands that true power in this league is not just about scoring 30 points a night. It is about manipulating the salary cap, empowering your teammates, and creating a culture of sacrifice. LeBron James did it in Miami. Tim Duncan did it in San Antonio to keep the Spurs dynasty rolling. Tom Brady made a career of it in the NFL. Vembanyama is following the blueprint of the ultimate winners, but the risk is immense. If Stephon Castle does not develop, if the Spurs front office fails to utilize the extra cap space effectively, Vembanyama will have sacrificed millions of dollars for nothing. The critics will say he should have taken the money. The union will point to him as a cautionary tale. But if this works, if Stephon Castle blossoms into an all-NBA guard, if the Spurs dethrone the Knicks and string together multiple championships, then this contract extension will be remembered as the moment the San Antonio Spurs dynasty was officially reborn. It will be viewed as the ultimate chess move by a player whose basketball IQ is as towering as his physical stature. We are entering a golden era of basketball, an era defined by the inevitable collision course between the established champions in New York and the rising titans in Texas. The pressure is on. Stephon Castle has to prove his worth. Karl-Anthony Towns has to defend his crown. And Victor Wembanyama has to prove that leaving money on the table was the smartest investment he ever made. Thank you so much for tuning in to this deep dive analysis. This storyline is going to dominate the league for years to come, and we will be here to break down every single angle. What do you guys think? Is the Players Association right to be angry with Wembanyama for taking less money? Will Stephon Castle live up to the immense pressure of his teammates' financial sacrifice? And can Karl-Anthony Towns and the Knicks hold off the Spurs in a potential finals rematch? I want to hear all of your thoughts, theories, and predictions down in the comment section below. Do not forget to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss an upload. We are bringing you the most in-depth, hard-hitting NBA analysis on the platform. Until next time, keep your eyes on the court because the drama never stops. See you in the next one.